Hey sports card fans, it's John Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the top 10 PSA vintage baseball card sales on eBay for cards from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s for the month of February 2024. Now, in this month, for the 1950s, you have some examples of some classic 1950s cards. For the 1960s, you have some interesting cards that make the top 10 list this month. And for the 1970s, there are a couple of head scratchers, plus some other high-grade examples of 70s cards. So let's go take a look. Let's start off with the top 10 from the 1950s. Coming in at number 10, we have this 1953 Topps Willie Mays in a PSA 6. This one sold on February 19th for $7,877. It was an auction. There were 33 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 6 is $8,409. The record high sale was $14,460 back in March of 2023 through Golden Auction. At number 9, we have this 1951 Bowman Willie Mays rookie card in a PSA 4. This one sold on February 26th for $9,000. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price is $9,482. However, this particular sale was not in VCP's database. The record high sale for a PSA 4 was $20,000 back in February of 2022 through a PWCC auction. Now, there were three other significant 51 Bowman Willie Mays sales that took place in February. The first one here is a PSA 5 miscut sold on February 4th for $7,765. There was another PSA 4 that sold on February 2nd for $7,659. And then there was a PSA 1 copy that sold on February 18th for $5,724. At number 8, we have this 1957 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 8. This one sold on February 1st for $9,412. It was an auction. There were 31 bids. The current VCP average price is $12,217 for a PSA 8. However, the record high sale was $21,600 back in February of 2023 through Heritage Auction. At number 7, we have this 1952 Topps Willie Mays in a PSA 4. Great looking card there. This one sold on February 1st for $11,000. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price is $7,855. This particular sale was not in VCP's database. The record high sale for a PSA 4 is $20,400, and that was reached twice. First in August of 2021 through REA, and then again in July of 2022 through PWCC. Now, there were three other 52 Topps Willie Mays that sold in February. One was a 4.5, sold on February 13th for $9,880. Then there was another PSA 4 that sold on February 18th for $7,124. And then a third copy, a PSA 3, sold on February 18th for $6,452. At number 6, we have this 1954 Topps Hank Aon rookie card in a PSA 6.5. This one sold on February 5th for $11,200. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price is $11,400. The record high sale for a 6.5 was $21,000 back in March of 2021 through eBay. Now, there were three other 54 Topps Hank Aon rookie cards that sold in February. One was a PSA 6 that sold on February 5th for $9,200. There was another PSA 6 that sold on February 4th for $8,200. And then there was a 4.5 that sold on February 9th for $5,700. At number 5, we have this 1956 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 8. This one sold on February 7th for $12,600. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $13,566. Again, this particular sale was not in VCP's database. The record high sale for a PSA 8 was $23,700 back in May of 2023 through PWCC. At number 4, we have this 1951 Bowman Mickey Mantle rookie card in a 1.5. You can see some tape marks at the top and the bottom there. Other than that, the card looks really nice, but of course, because of the tape damage there, it did receive a PSA 1.5 grade. This one sold on February 4th for $13,000. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price is $11,744. The record high sale for a 1.5 was $13,800 twice, back in February of 2022 through our Heritage auction, and then again on April 4th, 2022 through an REA auction. Now, there were 3 other 1951 Bowman Mickey Mantle rookie cards that sold in February. One was a PSA 2 that sold on February 21st for $8,999. Then there was a PSA 2 miscut sold on February 15th for $8,650. And then finally, there was another PSA 2 miscut sold on February 20th for $8,250. At number 3, we have this 1954 Topps Ernie Banks rookie card in a PSA 8. This one sold on February 9th for $26,000. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price is $24,749. Again, this sale was not in VCP's database. The record high sale for a PSA 8 Ernie Banks rookie card was $50,400 back in April of 2022 through REA. At number 2, we have this 1953 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 7. This one sold on February 16th for $26,500. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price is $27,564. However, the record high sale for a PSA 7 was $51,600 back in March of 2022 through PWCC. Now, there were 2 other 53 Topps Mickey Mantles that sold in February of significance. One was a PSA 6 that sold on February 14th for $9,900. And then there was a PSA 4 copy that sold on February 22nd for $5,750. And the number 1 selling card for February from the 1950s is this 1956 Topps Roberto Clemente in a PSA 9. This one sold on February 4th for $40,000. It was a buy it now, just under the current VCP average price of $41,107. Now, the record high sale for a PSA 9 was $90,000 back in April of 2022 through PWCC. Now, this example here in a PSA 9 is one of only 9 graded copies, and there is only 1 graded a PSA 10. All right, on to the cards from the 1960s. Coming in at number 10, we have this 1953 Topps Pete Rose rookie card in a PSA 7. Now, this one sold on February 3rd for $4,401. It was an auction. There were 58 bids. The current VCP average price is $3,773. The record high sale for a PSA 7 was $8,500 back in July of 2021 through a PWCC listing on eBay, and also in November of 2021 through an eBay listing. At number 9, we have this 1961 Post Serial Jim Landis. Now, this is the perforated version and received a PSA 10 grade. Now, this one sold on February 4th for $4,618. It was an auction. There were 18 bids, and that is the current VCP average price for a PSA 10 because it is the only recorded sale in VCP's database. There are only 2 that have been graded a PSA 9, and this copy here is the only one that has been graded a PSA 10. Not to be outdone, at number 8, we have this 1961 Post Serial Roy Sievers, another perforated version, and again a PSA 10 gem mint grade. This one also sold on February 4th for $4,618. It was an auction. There were only 9 bids on that one. And again, that is the current VCP average price for a PSA 10. And again, the only recorded sale. Similar to the other Post Serial card, there are only 2 that have been graded a PSA 9. And this one here is the only one that has received a PSA 10 grade. At number 7, we have this 1969 Topps Carl Yastrzemski in a PSA 9. This one sold on February 8th for $4,999. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price is $5,520. However, this particular sale was not in VCP's database. Now, the record high sale for a PSA 9 is $5,640 back in March of 2022 through PWCC. Now, in this PSA 9 grade, this card is one of only 32 copies to receive that grade, and there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the 69 Topps Carl Yastrzemski. At number 6, we have this 1963 Topps Roberto Clemente in a PSA 8.5. This one sold on February 18th for $5,000. It was an auction. There were 45 bids. The current VCP average price is $5,325. Now, the record high sale is not much higher than that, $5,651, not too long ago in January of 2024 through Memory Lane. At number 5, we have this 1962 Topps Roger Maris in a PSA 8. This one sold on February 28th for $5,250. It was a best offer. Now, the current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $4,027. However, this particular card was not in VCP's database. The record high sale for a PSA 8 was $6,995 back in September of 2023 through eBay. Now, what's interesting is this same exact card also sold in February, same exact PSA serial number, and could be an apparent flip. This one sold on February 13th for $3,740. So it was the same exact card that later sold on February 28th for $5,250. Now, maybe the reason why that sale on the 28th was not in VCP's database, it appears that this second transaction took place through the eBay Vault system. All right, at number 4, we have this 1968 Topps Nolan Ryan rookie card in a PSA 8. This one sold on February 24th for $9,150. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price for a PSA 8 is $7,569, although this sale was not in VCP's database. The record high sale for a PSA 8 was $11,400 back in December of 2021 through REA. Now, there were 3 other Nolan Ryan rookie cards that sold in February. Another PSA 8 that sold on February 11th for $7,500. Then there was a PSA 7 copy sold on February 26th for $3,650. And then another PSA 7 that sold on February 6th for $3,500. At number 3, we have this 1967 Topps checklist, which features Mickey Mantle on the front in a PSA 10. This one sold on February 1st for $9,953. It was an auction. There were 58 bids, and that is the current VCP average price because this is the only recorded sale of a PSA 10. It looks like it is a newer slab as well, which is probably the reason why it is the only sale recorded in VCP's database. There are only 22 that have been graded a PSA 9, and this one here is the first one to be graded a PSA 10. At number 2, we have this 1969 Topps Nolan Ryan in a PSA 9. This one sold on February 25th for $10,000. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price is $10,359. The record high sale, though, for a PSA 9 was $19,200 back in February of 2024, actually this current month here, through Heritage Auction. Now, in the PSA 9, there are 126 graded copies. In the PSA 10, there are only 3. And on to the top card sale for February from the 1960s. It's this 1968 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 9. This one sold on February 3rd for $10,500. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price is $9,773. The record high sale, though, for a PSA 9 was $18,830 back in December of 2021 through memory lane. Now, this PSA 9 copy here is one of 183 that have received that numerical grade, and there have only been 11 graded a PSA 10. All right, on to the top 10 selling cards from the 1970s. At number 10, we have this 1977 Topps Mike Schmidt in a PSA 10. This one sold on February 15th for $4,815. It was an auction. There were 27 bids. The current VCP average price is $4,035, but this sale was not in VCP's database. Now, the record high sale for a PSA 10 was $6,900 back in March of 2022 through eBay. In a PSA 9, there are 382 graded copies, but this copy here in a PSA 10 is one of only 35 examples. At number 9, we have this 1972 Topps Nolan Ryan in a PSA 9, one of my favorite Nolan Ryan cards. This one sold on February 1st for $4,900. It was an auction. There were 41 bids. The current VCP average price is $3,923, so sold for $1,000 over the current VCP average price. The record high sale for a PSA 9 was $6,000 back in September of 2022 through eBay. Now, in a PSA 9, there are 194 graded copies, but only 9 have received a PSA 10 grade. Now, there were 2 other 1972 Topps Nolan Ryan cards that sold in February. Another PSA 9 sold on February 8th for $4,100, and yet another PSA 9 sold on February 28th for $3,855. At number 8, we have this 1975 Topps George Brett rookie card in a PSA 9. This one sold on February 18th for $5,126. It was an auction. There were 58 bids. The current VCP average price for a PSA 9 is $5,288, but this particular sale was not in VCP's database. The record high sale for a PSA 9 was $8,562 back in July of 2021 through memory lane. Now, this PSA 9 copy is one of 323 that have received that grade. There have only been 11 that have been graded a PSA 10. At number 7, we have this 1970 Topps Hank Aon in a PSA 9. This one sold on February 26th for $5,800, which represents a new record high sale for a PSA 9. It was a best offer. The current VCP average price, $3,339. The previous record high was $5,770 back in March of 2022 through a PWCC listing on eBay. Now, there have been 85 graded a PSA 9. Only 6 have received a PSA 10 grade. At number 6, we have this 1974 Topps Tom Sver in a PSA 10. This one sold on February 9th for $7,534. It was an auction. There were 41 bids, and it is the current VCP average price for a PSA 10. The record high sale was $12,199 back in February of 2022 through memory lane. Now, while there are 208 that have been graded a PSA 9, this is one of only 19 that have been graded a PSA 10. At number 5, we have this 1975 Topps Hank Aon in a PSA 9. This one sold on February 18th for $8,650. It was an auction. There were 51 bids. The current VCP average price is $12,400. So this one sold for significantly less than the current average for a PSA 9, and way below the record high sale of $16,150 back in September of 2023 through memory lane. Now, this PSA 9 is one of only 44 copies that have received a PSA 9 grade. There's only been one that has been graded a PSA 10. At number 4, we have this 1970 Topps Roberto Clemente in a PSA 9. This one sold on February 26th for $9,000. It was a buy it now. The current VCP average price is $6,620, although this sale was not in VCP's database, but represents quite a significant jump for above the current average price. The record high sale for PSA 9 was $14,400 back in April of 2023 through REA. Now, this one here represents a one copy out of the 78 that have been graded a PSA 9. There's only been one that has been graded a PSA 10. At number 3, we have this 1977 Topps Reggie Jackson in a PSA 10. This one sold on February 14th for $10,758. It was an auction. There were 37 bids, and that is the current VCP average price for a PSA 10. The record high sale was $15,000 back in May of 2021 through Heritage. Now, there have been 206 graded a PSA 9, but this is one of only 16 copies that have been graded a PSA 10. At number 2, we have this 1971 Topps Jack Heiderman in a PSA 10. Again, one of those head scratchers, maybe a PSA registry buy or a 1971 Topps set builder. This one sold on February 14th for $11,211. It was an auction, and there were 24 bids. That is the current VCP average price for a PSA 10 and represents a new record high sale. The previous high sale for a PSA 10 was $850 back in November of 2012 through eBay. Now, there have only been 11 graded a PSA 9, but this PSA 10 is one of only 2 copies to receive that grade. And the number 1 highest selling card from the 1970s for February, this 1975 Topps Willie Starr in a PSA 10. This one sold on February 18th for $19,995. It was a buy it now. Now, the current VCP average price is actually $32,430. This particular sale was not in VCP's database, but would represent a significant decrease versus what a normal PSA 10 Willie Starr sells for. The record high sale for a Willie Starr PSA 10 was $51,466 back in May of 2023 through Golden Auction. Now, there have been 182 that have graded a PSA 9, but this one here is one of only 4 copies to receive a PSA 10 grade. There you go, the top 10 PSA vintage baseball card sales on eBay for cards from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s for the month of February 2024. As always, would love to know in the comments what you think about the cards that made this month's top 10 lists. And with that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.